I'd like to get started with the Montecito consent calendar. We don't really call this to order, so item C1245 Santa Rosa Lane. Brian, I see you're here, but I think we can be fairly quick about this. Did you have a chance to look at this, Robert? Rob? And do you have any comments about it? Mass bulk and scale okay, majority comfortable with the variable setback. Um, I mean, and my comment after looking at it is that there, first of all, there is a memo which says that the project has met all the requirements and that we're okay. I'm ready to recommend approval to the full board. No, that's C3. And you swapped out a light fixture, right? Yeah. Yeah.
The only thing that,
Turn on your mic, press the little white. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, yes. Yes, we did, we clarified the dark sky compliant light fixture,
Right.
LED fixture hidden in the hood, shining down.
You okay?
actually, the only thing that caught my eye, and forgive me if this wasn't brought up beforehand, was the pool equipment. Is that on the south side? What side of that is that the cabana, or it's basically facing a neighbor? Is that,
It is on the south side, correct?
is it facing a neighbor?
I don't know how direct.
Can we take a
Well,
look at
I guess
site plan?
the issue I had with it is like, there's a lot of pool equipment and stuff, and it didn't look like it was screened in any fashion in there. Am I missing something?
No. Oddly enough, the pool pump itself is in the garage. So the louder equipment is in the garage, but the heater is there on the south side.
Can we look at that picture? It just hit me right in the face. So if it got by, there were some pictures on there.
Should be sheet 2.
Thank you. But yeah, that picture 9 kind of, that certainly should have, some screening, wood, preferably some kind of wood panel, masonry panel or something like that. Was that asked for by the, so if we didn't, I apologize for not seeing that sooner. but
Brian,
I'd
what do you think
approve it
about
with a-
that?
I think we could accommodate that. That's a pretty high hedge to the, do we have a view from,
You want
I
something?
guess, to the left on,
Yes. Yeah, it's
photo number 10 there to the left is the hedge you can see.
So Brian, in the spirit of trying to keep the noise down and aesthetically, could you accept a motion where we would approve it, but you would need to come back and provide screening around that for approval just by me with the planner?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
I would actually like to see to be, rather than being landscape, because landscape can die or not be successful, is either be a simple wood fence, or even a masonry wall would even be better, because that would have some sound absorbing.
Can you do masonry?
If we're inside the setback, I believe.
And
Yeah, you are.
did this have, was this required by the county to have the noise abatement study? Or was this previously approved?
It's existing there, so I'm not sure if that was
Okay, all
previously.
right, well, so the masonry would, so this might have been built well before that ordinance was kind of flushed out to where it is now, so a masonry would certainly be approved, but I'd be okay with kind of a wood and some
Are
vine.
you okay with masonry?
Yeah, well, actually, we'd probably prefer that
Okay.
to screen that anyway.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Thank you. So we're ready to
Yeah.
go, right? Okay, very good. Thank you. And item C2 now, we have public comment, correct? With this, Britt and whomever else, come on up. So I have spent a lot of time on this project yesterday, spent probably close to an hour on it, back and forth with the planner and with Britt, trying to get some drainage resolved. So I think it's fine to have you present public comment, but only once. And if we're going to have this at the full board, if you'd like to, we don't make the decision. We make recommendations. I might recommend that you ask when we do it at the full board, that you have public comment then. I think that would be a better place for you to get your opinion out. Is that acceptable to you, sir? It will be, but we are not the final approval. We will recommend to the full board. They're the ones with the full. And so we're going to actually do this twice this morning or this afternoon
But
in about 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. Okay. Okay. So Britt, as you know, okay, so do you have any comments about item C2?
well, I'd like to hear what, we had some specific comments made and I,
789 Park Lane. So
yeah, I'd like to see how they were addressed and then I can respond according.
study options to significantly improve drainage on the south side of the property, demonstrate on-site water retention in compliance with stormwater regulations, restudy with the driveway, which you did from what I can see, and study options to reduce olive tree nuisance concerns. So can you, the neighbor that is most concerned is with us. So can you please explain to us site plan? Turn on your mic, please. Not yet. There you go.
Okay, got it. Okay. Red when it's on, that's weird.
No, there was a site plan, a single sheet, right? If
Yeah,
I,
Robert Schmidt sent a site plan this morning wherein we are collecting the water on the decks and routing it to the street. We've also added a curb to the driveway in the front, which directs water to the street. And then we have bioswales at the property line also to contain any sheet flow that would come out of there. So basically, you know, the pool is in grass. The pool is just a big storm grate because it has overflow built in. So the only additional hardscape that's been added is the terrace to the back, which we're capturing and pulling to the front. The side terrace, which existed previously, we're capturing and pulling to the front. And all of the runoff from the driveway, we're capturing and pulling to the front. So this meets county flood control standards and above.
okay,
And then the landscape component to it, which was pruning and developing new site trees, Nick can speak to.
okay, very good. So do you have any questions?
Yeah, is there a hedge on that property that's on the adjoining property? Is that
The south side,
on the south side? I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's a Prunus,
Okay,
Prunus Carolina.
okay. And so they're more, the intent, they're not bioswales per se as much as they're retention, are they more retention basins?
These are more retention.
Okay,
correct.
so-
There's a detail on L6 if you wanted to see it.
Yeah, I know, and it's just kind of a combination of functional and design at the same time. I think, I mean, you're in the right direction. So I think if you took those bio retention basins and I think you have to pull that off the property line a little bit and just move it away from the property line and then maybe make them a little more organic. So they're not like a long hot dog. They're kind of, fatten up and have some meandering quality, maybe add some boulders and make them more of an amenity landscape kind of component, I think would be more successful, and solve the problem at the same time.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
it does. We intended to be tucked into the hedge a little bit, so it probably won't be exposed that much, but
we are
yeah, we
under
can.
some fairly tight time constraints. Is this something that is going to require yet another submission, or is this something?
I would, as part of a motion, I think,
And then review after.
yeah, no, just, so collectively, they've done all kinds of things to resolve the drainage. So it isn't just one thing, it's a number of things that I think add up to help solve the problem, so.
And so are you okay then with this project?
Yes, I am.
Britt, please do me a personal favor.
Okay.
Please chat with your neighbor.
Okay.
Explain to them what you have done in the last few days because he doesn't know. He hasn't seen these drawings yet. Include the information that Robert just had about how you're going to deal with that. And so that he fully understands what you're going to do. and then we'll hear from you at the main meeting, okay? But a lot of stuff happened in the last 24 hours to try to improve the drainage so that it doesn't affect your property anywhere near as much, okay? So can you spend 5-10 minutes with him?
Is that the thrust of his issue? Was there any?
That was the thrust and the olive trees, right? Okay, well, I don't know what we can do about that, but if you guys can chat, maybe you can work something out, okay? So we're gonna recommend approval with some minor things. Item C3, please. Anybody here?
Online.
Online, somebody? Jessica?
Hi. Yeah, I'm here. Jessica and Kirk. The changes you wanted were mostly landscape based, so I'm gonna have Jessica speak to those.
So the main changes were questions about the entry LA and whether we can reduce lighting. The way that I think is the best way to reduce lighting was, is this?
This is the old plan though.
The
This is
older
latest
plan.
plan that we sent, yeah.
This is older. Okay.
Okay, so
Oh, there we go. That's the newer plan. We reduced the olive trees in the front LA by 1 pair, and then you commented on the possibility of reducing from 2 fixtures per tree to 1 fixture. In lieu of doing that, so that we still have balanced light on the framework of the tree, I have taken it from the 3 LED to the back down to the 1 LED, so it's a lower light source. In order to accomplish less light, we have 8 less fixtures by eliminating a pair and then going down to a 1 LED fixture. And that's balanced within the tree canopy.
okay, so Jessica, I spent well over an hour this morning looking at this plan. I think that the board, or I will speak for myself, I was not aware as to the number of lights that you had other places, including right on the property line on the east side and then throughout. We have not been approving lights anywhere near this high. And I'll just be quite frank with you, I'm not going to be able to vote for this much light. Now, I think that you have an argument that we did approve it at preliminary, but this is completely inconsistent with what we've done. So I'm speaking for myself now, and it would require substantially more reduction in light. So Robert, do you have an opinion about this?
Yeah, no, I actually think that, and, you know, I alluded to that in a conversation was, I think what Jessica has done is it's not the number of lights, it's the intensity so that you can have a bunch of them, but if the LEDs knock down on those, then that, and I understand that notion of trying to get a balanced effect. So I kind of support that. The only thing that I would be concerned about as far as light is any lights that may have an impact on neighbors and are off the property. So if there's like a section and it looks like there may be where they're kind of imposing on the neighbors, then I would ask maybe you adjust that. But I think your concept of having the same number but lower intensity, I can support. I do have one comment, and you've done everything else I've asked for. The only thing, and I have a question which made this, how big are those olives on the coming in on the alley?
Oh, they're field grown, so they're gonna be mature.
So I mean, what are they, what are you showing
they're-
that on? I don't have a
Oh,
scale.
scale wise, I
Mhm.
have the document open, I can
Are they
tell you.
25 feet or 30 feet? So, because
I have them drawn in at 22 feet, so.
okay, so you know, and maybe the one thing I didn't see before is I was concerned maybe it was too crowded, but I think the notion of having the 5 and the 3, and then, you know, you have 4 around the entry, I think is nice. And then rather than having the 2, having the 3, but my concern, the reason I reacted to that is that first olive on the right looks like it's jammed in against an oak tree. Is that, or what is that?
Oh, yes, I see where, I can't remember off the top of my head if it's an oak or a big pittosporum.
So I don't, if there's going to be a conflict there, then I'd take
Yeah.
that first group and
Okay.
move either and I wouldn't mind, I guess I wouldn't
I
have
think
minded
that
the odd
county
number of
probably would have-
three, but then I think it may be too
Yeah, we-
crowded. So if you
like
just
this.
move the two to the right,
Okay.
and maybe have some little lower accent right at the entrance, I think it would be very successul and work pretty
Yeah, I
well.
have two small little stone plinths or column, like
Okay, yeah, that'd be,
at the entry.
yeah, no,
Okay.
you've done everything in the right direction, so thank you.
Okay, so
Um,
we're gonna chat about this at the full board too, so stay with us, okay?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Are we ready to start the full meeting?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to call to order the Montecito Board of Architectural Review for February 8th, 2024. Item number 1 is public comment. Is there anybody here that would like to address the board on an item that's not on the agenda today, please?
Haven't received no request to speak.
Okay, agenda status report.
We do have one item, one change. Item number 2, the project been withdrawn, so staff would kindly request that the board make a motion to drop the item from the agenda.
So moved. Is there a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay, so minutes. Anybody got any comments, please, for the minutes of January 25th? Anybody? Okay, item C1, we say public comment, none. I've never seen that before. Why do we have that on here? C1,
I actually put it on all the time. May just not have noticed it.
maybe I didn't notice it. I doubt that. Okay. Okay, so then on item number C5, this was Alex Peugeot's project, and it was about whether or not he had site lighting. So I'd like to actually, at the last sentence, I'd like to take out the period and put in a comma, if applicable. Because he didn't know if he's going to have a lighting plan or not. So it would be the planner in consultation with the MBAR chair, if applicable. Okay. Item number 3. Comment number 1. Site visit and story poles required. Story poles to be placed at corners of the roof, not of the dwelling. That roof extends out farther than the dwelling. And then number 4, MBAR remains concerned about the amount of grading. Study options to reduce grading, particularly in, I like to take the word upper, northern portion of the property. It's upper only on the drawings, so it's northern portion of the property. Comment, item number 4. Comment number 2, increased number of trees along the northwest portion of the property. And then I'd like to add to shield project from Glen Oaks. Comment number 5, item number 5, comment number 2. One member suggested that the applicant consider replacing existing windows. And then I'd like to add to unify design. It wasn't just capricious. There was actually a reason for it.
Back to 4.
Yeah.
So for the intent of refining the renderings was really so that the renderings were updated to coincide with the landscape and changes that we were requesting.
Where is that now?
Item 4, number 4, it says refine renderings.
Okay, let's be specific, exact language, please. Refine renderings.
Update renderings to coincide with requested landscape adjustments.
Okay. Item number 6, comment number 4, restudy exterior lighting, provide photometric study, including exterior lights attached to residence. That was Dan Abrams' project and had the very large overhangs. Okay. Number 9, consider adding cement plaster to concrete walls, not exterior. Okay, so this is item number 9, comment number 1. Provide additional details on wrought iron gate increase. What's that word about? Robustness?
Yeah.
What? Yeah, does anybody have a better idea, a better word here?
Beefy was the word used in the meeting.
Well, many things are said. So, thickness, let's change it to thickness. Okay. And then in the motion, the very last word, it's very last line, exterior wall and gate, we should add the word details there. Does anybody else have any comments, please? I move for approval of the minutes as amended. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? MBAR members informational briefing. Anybody go anywhere, do anything?
I will be recusing myself on item 7.
Right?
Oh, and I like to recuse myself.
Ooh.
Number 5.
Okay,
And I will recuse myself on item 7.
So, it's
Yep.
gonna be a problem. So I've been texting, Jennifer Stevens and I made her aware of that. So they have quite a large team.
okay, and then the other issue is Robert Sen, wife, has had COVID, is having COVID right now, and I asked him not to attend. Okay, so, and then we don't have a member, so we're starting with 5, and now we're down to 3 on item 7, so. Okay. And members informational briefing, I was asked by Bryce Ross is his last name, from Miramar, to have a chat with him about the Miramar project. There were no new drawings or no new this. We just had a 3-on-1, 3 from his side. And I just wanted to report that I was there. Okay, anybody else? Staff update, anybody, please?
Nothing for me.
Nothing for me, thank you.
So we have an interesting consent calendar today. Okay, so item number C1, we met with Brian Zant and we had asked him to add a masonry screening wall at the pool equipment. And he agreed to do that. So to that end, I'd like to move for both preliminary, oh, no, is there anybody that would like to address the board on item C1, please? Nobody?
No request to speak.
I'd like to move for both preliminary and final approval with the applicant to add a masonry screen wall to be reviewed by the planner in consultation with Rob Fuller, please.
Fuller.
There a second? There a second? Second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay, item C2. Britt, are you here? Okay. We're gonna have. Okay, item C3. 26956 Sycamore Canyon Road. This project has was approved by us, I think it was last time.
Yep.
And as a preliminary, and they're back for final. I had missed at that time the number of tree lights. And I have, this is where we asked them to reduce the LA. There's 38 tree lights on this project, and it's, in my opinion, inconsistent with, now Rob has a different take on that, and I think Jessica's online. So,
I'm here.
so I think that we should, can we get up that landscape plan?
Mhm.
There's 38, including over there on the right hand side of the drawings, right
You
next.
go to the newer drawings, I'm sorry, that one doesn't have there you go. Thank you.
And one thing about the lights on the right side of the property, the same property owner owns this property and the property to the east.
Yeah, this is his personal property to the east.
And so they also have lights right at the entry and on that entry court and then around that area. So it's far more than we've approved in the past. Now, having said that, this project was given preliminary with a very specific requirement, so it's not perfectly clear what our authority here is. But I'm wondering what people's comments are, please.
What are the lights and the tree lights are clear, that's what those are. Are there the other lights that are around the circle there? Those are just path lights?
Well,
Those
they have,
They're single LED path lights that per manufacturer specifications should be spaced at 8 foot. I have them at about 15 to 16 foot spacing, so double the manufacturer spacing.
but you also have some tree lights there, correct?
There's two tree lights in the central olive, and then on the oak tree to the north, the two oak trees to the north of the property, there's two tree lights that again are 1 LED, so very minimal, and then 4 in the very large oak tree that's over the kind of entertaining and pathway system, since there are no existing path lights in that stair zone.
And then on the right-hand side, Jessica, please.
The right-hand side is the tree that's on the property line that is shared with the owner of the property, and there's 3 1 LED lights out of the canopy.
And
We
what
have
are
a
the,
lot to do today, so let's try to be as brief as we can, please.
and the lights that are in the LA there, how many are tree
There's
lights?
two lights per tree, and as I went over in the consent hearing was I had investigated doing 1 light, but with mature olives, my goal was to have a balanced kind of filtered light effect. So I backed it down from the 3 LED to a 1 LED to minimize the actual light source while still giving a balanced kind of filtered moonlight effect.
You're saying 1 watt, is that what it is?
It's
Yeah.
a 1 LED, what's the wattage? I think it's 9 watts, if I recall correctly.
That's a bright light. Can we go down?
I don't know, actually, the wattage is 2 watts on the path lights, and the hanging lights are 4 watts.
Well, it says in the legend,
9.9.
no, keep
That's
1 LED.
Isn't it
1.9. So
2.9? Yeah.
So Bill, my take on it was that I wasn't so concerned about the number of lights, which seems like we get hung up on sometimes, as more of the intensity. So what she did was trying to keep it balanced, but reduced the LED. And so I'm not so worried about the number as much as kind of the effect and the intensity of it. So
Yeah.
I think you can have a bunch of lights, and if they're all knocked down a lot, you can have a really nice lighting scenario, so.
Anybody else? We need to keep this moving, please. Anybody else, please?
I would be concerned about the lights on the property line. I don't think the board's approved lighting like
What
this.
about at the entry, right, that central tree?
That one less so because it's directly to the street and not the neighbors.
You want to make a motion, Dave, please?
Sure. Make a motion for final approval with the applicant to eliminate the lights on the eastern property line, the 3 tree lights at the eastern property line that are adjacent to the neighboring property.
Is there a second, please?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Jessica, for staying with us.
No
Excellent.
problem.
Okay, item C2. This is, Britt, are you here? Come on up. So this is the project up on Park Lane that has the new pool and the new deck, and there's been issues from the drainage that the neighbor has written us 3 times now, I think, sir. Is that right? And he continues, at least before the discussion with Britt, I don't know what happened there, has continued to have concerns about this project. So can you please come up, introduce yourself on the tape so we have your name, and you have no more than 3 minutes, please.
Okay, this is Paige Roos,
Very good, thank you.
and I think the drainage issue we've gotten under control as far as I'm concerned. My real concern is with the olive trees. They've been allowed to grow for years. If we could get those pictures up here. This is the staining that they do on our driveway when they drop the olives on our driveway. And that's been power washed already. So if you can, there we go. They talked about pruning the existing trees that don't really provide screening for the house or buffering for noise. And if you prune them, I assume that these were chopped off and pruned, just cut back, and they've grown back like that and are creating the same problem. So I don't think that just trimming and pruning, now that we can look at the other pictures where we look, not this set of pictures, but the other ones there of the house. These things are just, they're not the beautiful olive trees you see when you drive into the San Ysidro Ranch. These things are ugly and they're nasty, and they drop fruit everywhere. They don't provide any screening for sight or sound. For sound, before this project was shut down, the workmen were working there, and their conversations were being recorded by our security cameras because the sound just travels down, and that was just normal conversation level. They weren't shouting. So we'd like to see these trees removed and something planted there that will provide sight and sound screening. With the pool going in right there, there's going to be noise from the pool, maybe kids screaming and yelling, jumping. So we need some buffering, need some sound buffering there. So those ficus trees, and then if you could show the picture of this, that's our hedge now. That's what we're looking at, and it's ugly. If you could show the picture of the cypress hedge, which was, those are the olive trees overhanging the, I think it's pittosporum or something, but the cypress hedge, you could show that. That was in the second set of photos along with the one at the gate. Yeah. Yeah, that one, maybe the last one. No. Anyway, that's it. So that's a substantial hedge that leads to the pittosporum hedge. And that's cypress, and that provides the type of screening we need for sound and sight. But you can see above both all those ratty olive trees, just with their, thin branches
Mr.
that
Roos,
drop olives.
your time's up.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, so this is supposed to be like 5 minutes or less at final, so do you have any comments about whether, can you accommodate anything or not, please?
Yeah, I can be brief. If you can pull up L3, we can show the landscaping plan. I'll let you know, to address those specific areas, we've proposed to infill with fruitless olives, dwarf fruitless olives that will cover the mid-story of that canopy. And then also we have proposed to fill in that prunus hedge. And the prunus Carolinia, I believe it is, those can grow up to about 20 feet. And this is a compact variety, compacta. So we're hoping that would fill in the area needed for, an organic screening and noise buffering. And that's what we've done for that specific area right there.
Very good, thank you. Okay, members of the board. Any comments, please? It sounds like the drainage has been taken care of. And any comments about the other stuff?
I'd be interested in Rob's comments regarding that landscape.
I mean, you could get some boxed, fruitless olives that are a little more substantial. Rather than using the compact Caroliniana, maybe just use, the regular one so that you get a little bit more kind of instant impact out of it. And then I wonder whether like adding either more oaks or something like Arbutus marina into the mix would kind of be in keeping with where you guys are going with it, but at least give you some kind of variety in there, because it seemed to be a concern that it was like overdone with the olive tree. So I mean, I actually agree. I think the olives that are existing look like they've been pruned in not a very flattering way and are kind of past their time. And maybe it's a good time to replace those if you're looking for instant effect, is replacing them with boxed fruitless olives. So
Would you guys be willing to do that, please?
Yeah, we can look into it. We'll see what we
No,
can
not
replace.
look into it. Can you do it or not, please?
Yes, I guess we
The
can.
plan does show new olive trees in that location also, so, yeah.
Fruitless?
Accommodated for that, but we will add more, whatever the board needs.
What do you need?
okay, so to keep it simple.
Would you like to make a motion, please? For final approval
yes.
with,
Okay, thank you. Okay. With additional boxed fruitless olives, mix in some boxed Arbutus marina, and then change the Prunus caroliniana from the compact version to the regular version for a more immediate screening effect. And
for review by the planner in consultation with yourself, please?
yes,
Yes.
yes.
I'll second that motion. Is there any further discussion, please? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Mr. Roos, you have 10 days to appeal this decision if you don't like it. That's not this coming Monday, but the following Monday, and you do have that right.
And John, I just would like to point out that this item is for final, not preliminary.
Yes,
So final is generally not appealable unless it's not in substantial conformity with preliminary.
okay. Okay. Okay, very good.
David, why is the planning commission screwing his own?
Yeah, well,
Ignore it.
Ignore it.
So,
apologize, sir. He's out of the room.
I've been texting with I just want to address the issue that we talked about during member recusals in the beginning of the agenda. So I've been texting with the agent for item number 7, which would be the one affected that we are saying that we have lost quorum for, and they are just asking why the 2 members who have recused themselves, what the reason for that is.
So I have done work for Mark Rios, who's the landscape architect on that project. So I've done doing a project for him
Currently,
currently.
And my firm has a client directly across the street from them that we're doing work for now.
so they're financial conflicts.
Yes.
Essentially, okay.
Okay. Apologize to everybody for taking so long to get through the beginning of this. It's odd, but item number 1, 475 Barker Pass Road. You don't look like Sergio. There's a button, there's a bar there. Very good. So we are on today for concept, first time.
Yes, and hopefully this is pretty straightforward. It's just an existing pergola that we're replacing. I'm Katie Klein. I'm the landscape architect on this project, so I'm here presenting since it's a pretty straightforward project. I think we have some pictures of the site we can maybe go through, but right there's an existing pergola. There's The neighboring property, there's a wall, there's hedging all along. It's really invisible. And once again, there is an existing one that we're just replacing. So can you keep going through? So this is just site context, so. They're just street views. House. And then right here, this is the pergola that's being replaced. So you can go back to the plans. And if you just want to walk through. So right here is the site plan. You can see there's an existing pool and we're just replacing the pergola and we're doing an outdoor kitchen and dining space. And then we have a detail of the pergola. And this is an older plan set that has a chandelier lighting and we're not doing that anymore. We're just doing a pendant light. And we have a spec for that. If you go to the next sheet, here's the outdoor kitchen. Go to the next sheet. And then, yeah, heaters. And then we're not doing this anymore. We're doing a pendant light that was actually on the previous plans that were presented, the lighting. It's just an FX, one LED like hanging light. It's more minimal. And that's it. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions, please. Bill, please.
No questions.
Yep.
No questions.
Rob
No questions.
and Dave.
Is the new hanging light you're proposing dark sky compliant?
Yes. It's just a little pendant.
Public comment. Is there anybody that would like to address the board on item number 1475 Barker Pass Road, please?
No request to speak on this one.
Okay, may I just move this along? Final, preliminary final on consent? Yep. Thank you.
You.
And yeah, the light fixture. Yeah. Yeah, very good. Excellent. Item number 2 has been continued. Item number 3, 1217 East Valley Road, please. We do have a comment letter on this too. So Adele, please. Turn on your mic. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Adele Yamada, and I am proud to be here today to present the project to the board and representing Perm Taylor in making decisions to rebuild her home and her life on East Valley Road. So I'm sure all of the board members are familiar with this property. Her lost, there was great loss of life and all structures on her property with the 19 debris flow. And the property today is very well screened along the perimeter. The only thing that you'll really see from 192 are entrance gates. Through those entrance gates, you have probably seen this site because this is the property that takes access to Jeff Shelton's round tower house that he designed for Ms. Myers. And the board has also seen Jeff's triangle house. All those two properties take access through Perm's property. You want, we can jump. I can make this pretty quick presentation. I want you to know that I did visit the site yesterday and the existing topography performed well in the last 2 rainstorms. And we can go to page 7. It's, that's the existing survey. So we had the initial survey done in November 2018, and then it was updated, just the property boundaries were updated in April 2022. The property that's looks like a rectangular property at the bottom right-hand corner. That's Ms. Myers' property. Her house, at the first time that this topography was done, the round house didn't exist. But I'm sure you're all familiar with the house that's takes access through this road. If you turn to page 8, These are some of the archive parcel information. The only files that we actually had of the structures were the assessor's records that had some dimensions and footprints. On the top right-hand corner, you can move up. Yeah, that is a building record that shows 2001 mapping. So the location of the structures, there was a garage, a main house, and a second residence. So the second residence now, for design purposes, is an accessory dwelling unit to be no more than 800 square feet. We'd like to rebuild like for like. I'm sure the board knows that rebuilding like for like is typically exempt from MBAR. We have a like for like two-car garage, and the ADU is also outside your purview. But the reason we're here today is the main residence, since there weren't enough documents, they wanted the board to see this and approve it architecturally. If you turn to page 11, that's our site plan. Shows the location of the structures that are in process right now at the county. So we have a main residence that's in approximately the same location where the main residence existed. A detached ADU and a detached two-car garage. If you go to page 14, 14 is our floor plan. We're proposing to build a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. There's a small laundry room, a combination living dining room area.
Adele, we don't normally deal with floor plans. I think
Okay.
we can go right to the elevations.
Right, at page 22. Page 22 is exterior elevations. So the house will sit, the finished floor level will sit about 7.5 feet above the finished grade. The lower level, we'd like to clad with Santa Barbara sandstone veneer. The residence would be clad in a board and batten done of a cement fiberboard in a sage green color. Proposing Geldwin clad windows clad in a dark bronze. And the roof will be Certainteed Presidential Shake, the TL Solaris in an autumn blend. The roof pitch is 5 and 12. And the exterior lighting spec is dark sky compliant. It's a wall mounted sconce. And I have a lighting plan to show you. If the board would like to see what this looks like in section, just so you have an elevation above grade. No? Okay. Page 38 is the lighting for the main residence. And that will show you the location of the exterior lighting.
Are you done?
Yes, thank you.
Questions, Dave, please.
Is the house basically what was there before but raised for flood control reasons? Is that
It's a different floor plan configuration,
the style of it?
the style of the house.
And it's on the stone wall because it needs to be raised to that level?
That's correct.
Tip, questions?
David, can you go back to the topo map with the houses? Keep going back. Yeah, that one. No, go back. One more. One more. Next one. Yeah, that one. So which one is the project? The top one?
Yes,
So it's right at the entrance coming into a couple homes, right? It's
That's
the
correct.
first, and that one was wash away.
yes.
And so the plan, and then what about the one next to it? It's not your project? Or the ADU? It's a new project,
ADU.
right?
So there was a loss of 3 structures, a garage, a second residence, and a main residence.
But right now you're just going in for the first one,
No, we are in application
for all of them.
for all of those. The only one that comes before your board is the main residence.
What about the garage?
The garage, the planning and zoning said, since we're rebuilding like for like and it's at ground level, there was no need to come to MBAR. There are plans and elevations in this set of drawings if you'd like to see those.
There was a garage in that location before?
No,
It was some you moved the new location completely.
yes, that's correct.
So it's not like for the garage, it's a brand new.
Like for like, doesn't necessarily mean that you're rebuilding in the same configuration, or the same style. You're looking at the loss of 3 structures.
Mhm.
And we've worked with the planning department for a little over a year to come up with location of structures that fits the needs of the property owner, has met Montecito Fire Department requirements and zoning.
And your project is, so you said like for like, but it's a new floor plan completely.
Yes, that's correct.
I say just a like for like, just like a term, but it's not applied to the project like.
Yes, like for like, they look at square footage of structures and use of structures. So the loss of a structure was about 1,200 square feet for the main residence, 900 square feet for the second residence. We had to reduce that now to 800 to meet today's zoning regulations for a detached ADU.
Okay, thank you.
Rob, please, questions?
Just real quick, I mean, so you've got the floor, the house is set at a certain elevation, the finished floor. And then, I'm reacting to the amount of stone and the proportion of stone to the house. And can you fill dirt on that against the stone, just backfill it just to reduce the visual height of that? Or does that throw off your whole engineering component?
Yeah, I would think that would significantly impact the grading and the drainage on the property.
I was just actually talking about just a little bit around the perimeter, but just from a visual stuff, just to reduce, and you could do it with landscaping, same thing. So I was just asking on the grading, so, okay.
Yeah, right now, the property performs very well. We've watched it over the years. Grading and, the grading and drainage follows the historic drainage course for this property. And, it's between 192 and Hot Springs Creek.
Okay.
And it's relatively flat.
Questions, Bill?
So I'm assuming that's a cripple wall frame, the lower floor with the stones cladding on it,
Yes.
and you're gonna have vent holes for water to flow through. Do you think that there's any advantage to adding larger openings that are blowout where you could actually use that as storage and
Yes.
break up that
We've
mass?
we've looked at that and tried to design forward on the ADU. So we do have some that have doors that could be used for storage, but it's a breakaway wall.
Yeah.
And then the vents that they have, these are the vents that automatically open so the water goes through. Typically what happens is we can send our plans to the vent company and they will make recommendations on the location and the spacing of the vents. So we will get there soon.
Yeah, well, I
was
was more curious about a way to, as Rob was trying to get to, a way to diminish maybe all that stone and maybe it look like a 2-story in some fashion, but it's not really living space underneath, it's storage for the client. Maybe there's a way to symbiotic relationship
Yes,
there.
thank you. Thank you. And we'll
thinking.
definitely take that under consideration and make those adjustments.
Yeah, okay, that's all, thanks.
I've got 2 questions. I don't see how that garage works. How the heck do you get in and get out of that thing? Turning radiuses, backup
Can you
spaces,
zoom into that area?
hardscape. I mean, you're right next to another building on the property and the property, there's the number 2, it says 2-car. How the heck's that thing get in and get out of there?
So what you see above the 2-car garage, it looks like might be guest parking. That's actually part of a turnaround space for the cars to back up and turn in.
To the left.
Hmm?
Well, you can back out, but you cannot turn around.
Yeah. Have you examined other ways for that? to
Yes,
work?
we have. And we did have a previous plan where the entrance to the garage came off of the landscape easement. And And I think that the neighbor was in favor of having all of the vehicular traffic outside of a shared landscape easement.
Okay, I have a question on that too.
Okay, so the other question I have, can we go back to the elevations? You know what sheet that is? 22.
Elevations are 22.
You know, I reacted, and it sounds like other members did too. One of the things that seems to be true about design is when you have 50-50, you know, it doesn't seem to work right. And I'm wondering if there's a way to lower the stone, increase the height of the wood, cementitious product, and get that proportion maybe into a 1/3, 2/3, or something like that. It should save you money. The stone's gonna cost more, and I think that it will act kind of like a plinth as opposed to looking like, excuse me, but it looks like a trailer put on top of some kind of a, you know, foundation that they had to do because of the trailer park. And so I think it's gonna work for you more if you could spend a little bit of time trying to work with the proportions. And are you permitted to put windows in that lower area?
No.
No windows. You're not permitted to do that.
Good.
Why not, please?
I've worked on 3 homes rebuilding, and I have never had windows in the lower level.
Does that mean that's because of you, or does that mean it's because of regulation?
Could be both. Could be, I mean, something that I would
Okay.
have to take up to flood control to
Did you have
see
any
if that's
questions?
something that they would allow.
Okay,
Tip wants to
I'd
ask
like to
another
pick onto the question about the low windows, that you mean in the stone?
Well, or maybe just eliminate the stone and make it look like something, you know.
Because,
I'm not sure this project is working for you financially and aesthetically yet. I think it's going to.
but there's no habitable space only above. So the low are just mainly to raise above floodplain.
Correct.
It could be considered storage if it allows.
Actually, you know what, yeah, I mean, because, yeah, if,
You can have a
if,
garage.
if I believe that, if you, just had to raise it to meet the flood requirement, you are allowed to, leave it open, keep it open, let the water go through it,
Yes, that's correct.
and it doesn't have to be solid,
Yes.
a block of stone. So, to answer your question about a lot of options to make it look more lighter or whatever. It doesn't have to be, that's one question. I just want to clarify on that issue. Number 2 is that, can you go back to the site plan with the 3 buildings?
11.
Yep. So the new garage is encroaching into what you call a side yard setback.
That's correct. So in E1, R1 district, you are allowed to do a variation in a side yard setback. Or
It's
side yard-
only on the rear yard setback.
No, if you look on side variations of side yard
Doesn't mean
setback.
we have to accept it.
Huh?
We don't have to accept that.
Yeah. No, I'm just wondering because it's always something that, so are we reviewing the garage at all or we are not?
You're not reviewing the garage or the ADU.
Because planning exempt that,
That's correct.
even though the garage wasn't there before.
That's correct. The garage was,
Yeah, I know the garage way on the other side. It's
the
not,
garage was, yes, and it was.
right,
it
it's
was
not,
less than 50 feet from the top of bank from the creek.
yep, the garage is on the right-hand side, next to the big house, where the garage was before. Next to your project, that's where the garage was. But now the garage moved all the way down to, that location, and the garage, it looks like it's bigger than 20 by 20, right? It seems like it's 24 by 20, something like that. It seems,
It is. It's larger than 20 by 20.
I wonder if, I guess a question for the planner, why the garage exempt?
no planner assigned, and yet she talks about working with the planning department for a year.
My guess is zoning counter. Kimberly, do you have anything you want to add?
I'm a little bit confused as well because like for like typically means general footprint, general same location, general, the height has to be the same, the square footage has to be the same. There are some considerations for flood properties to allow structures to be relocated to provide further flood protection, but typically not to the other side of the property and still be considered like for like. So I'd like to investigate this with the counter staff and Adele Ms. Yamada a little bit further.
So our planner is Willow. We've been working with Willow now since December of last year.
Okay, so I just have been receiving a message that Willow is in the meeting and maybe she can address this particular issue.
Okay, I have one further question. Adele, did you explore having the garage under the house?
Yes,
And why
we are
not?
not allowed to do that because we can only rebuild 2 feet over the AFE. So
What do you mean? Why can you only build 2 feet over the AFE?
2 feet only, in order to qualify for like rebuilding, they will not let you raise the finished floor level any higher than the minimum. And so our finished floor is about 7.5 feet from existing finished grade. We tried to explore that option of raising it a couple more feet and we cannot do that.
Okay.
Same thing happened to me 2 properties down for Jeff Harm's home. We were not able to raise it 2 feet to get a garage underneath. And on that was a rebuild like for like. It was a different location of the house and it was a different style and a different floor plan.
And why do you need to be like for like, please?
Why do we
This is Willow. Is it okay if I step in real quick
Yes,
and clarify
please.
things?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so for the residents, and there was a different garage proposed in the location of the original garage. That's what would be exempt from a land use permit. But since we didn't have any photos or something confirming that the design would be the same, they're both subject to MBAR review. I think there was some confusion. I was going to coordinate after. But the ADU is the only thing that's exempt from BAR.
Okay, thank you. And is there any reason why they can't lift that, the main residence to get the garage parking under the building, the primary building? Please.
I would have to talk to flood control, but if they raise the residence too high, then it wouldn't qualify for like anymore.
Yeah, but why does it need to be like for like? She's already here. I mean, the reason for like is to not come to us.
It would be
And
for
we're
the
trying to
land use
help you.
permit.
What?
So the land use permit is the permit that can be exempted if it's a like for like rebuild. In those instances where the design is substantially different than the original structure, it is there, we can run them through the Board of Architectural Review and still approve an exemption from a zoning permit.
We can do that.
You can. So the desire to have the like for like is to eliminate the need for a land use permit.
Kimberly, is the house, or Willow, is the house considered a like for like then? So, or is she having to get a land use permit for that already anyway?
No, so the house is within 10% of the square footage and height of the original structure. And so, and the raising for flood control doesn't count towards that 10%. So that would be exempt from a land use permit.
Okay.
So both structures, both the garage and the residence, should be reviewed by Board of Architectural Review.
Yes.
And then the residence has been deemed to be like for like in its current configuration and would be exempt from a land use permit.
Okay, I'm going to try to move this thing along. It looks to me like there's a further chatting between the planning department and Adele. So public comment, is there anybody that would like to address the board on item number 3, 1217 East Valley Road? I know we had a comment letter. Anybody else, please? basically, this is the next door neighbor, the one that Jeff Shelton brought through, and she's saying, hey, I had to make these huge caissons and so that my house didn't float away. Why don't these guys? That's basically what the letter says. So I don't know. Okay. Anybody else?
No hands raised.
Okay. Comments, same order. Dave, please. Comments?
Well,
There's a hand raised in the audience.
Oh, please come up. And we need a speaker slip though. You don't have to do it now, but before you leave, please. And there's a little bar, then you need to push it. There you go. You're on. You're on. Thank you.
I'm good.
Thank you.
Hi. Yeah, no, I'm just here to support the project. I'm a neighbor. And was one of the people that was providing assistance in that neighborhood after the debris flow. And all of the people that lived in that area endured enormous hardship, and we're hoping that this can be moved through as quickly as possible at this point. It took a lot to get to this point for people in this part of the recovery. And so what we're asking for is the most amount of support from this agency as well as the rest of Santa Barbara County Planning and Development and Land Use, and the maximum speed to permit in hand. We're in total support of this project. Thank you.
And your name, please.
Sorry, my name is John Abraham Powell.
Okay, and can you fill out the paper and give it to David, please? Anybody else, please? I think it's back on that counter right there. Anybody else, please? Okay, now, comments, Dave, please.
Well, I think I have, in general, the style of the architecture of the house and the garage, I think could work. The concerns I have are similar to those that have been mentioned, the amount of stone, the site planning of the garage, and it just seems, I'm not sure why it wouldn't make sense to get a land use permit if you could have usable space under the house and maybe use that as the garage and eliminate that issue. So I would highly encourage you to continue working with the planner to see if that's an option. Unless there's some land use constraint or just the time to get a land use permit, which I don't think would be that big of a difference. It just seems like you already have a two-story structure essentially, and you'd really be a lot more efficient and better site planning. And then coming back, we want to see the vent locations and the walls below and landscape plans and everything else to help the project, and maybe landscaping could be used to help scale those walls down too. And I also like John's comment of looking at bringing the wood siding down to change the proportions of stone to wood. That might be it. So I think there's some creative opportunities here to make the project work better, and it should be studied.
Tip. Thanks, Dave. Tip.
Can you go back to the site plan? Yeah, so it's, if I, understand it correctly, you are trying to save some timing by the pre-approve or no approval of the land use permit. And, but I believe that most of your delay will be at the building department, not the planning department. Building is what will take 6 to 9 months or a year. That's the last one I did. It took me 1.5 years to get to building department. And planning, I just don't see what you gain by trying like for like, because I think you can do much more than what you have now. That's just a comment. Number 2 is that I believe that before 2018, the garage was on the pad. You can see it on the site plan right now. And that, I believe that was a much better location for the garage, how you come into the property, how you're coming out of the property without going all the way down to the end. So I don't feel that the garage is in the right location. Plus, the way the garage now, literally you have to back out all the way out to the turnaround. And even that is tight. So I don't know why there's nothing in the spot where the garage was before, unless you plan to put something else there. And that is something that, so I guess what the big question is, if you can come back with a little more of the plan, the landscape plan, how you plan to develop the property, because it just seemed to be better to put the garage back in the way it was, way back in the front in the courtyard.
The existing garage location is less than 50 feet from the top of bank at the creek. So
Top of what?
the top of bank at Hot Springs.
They're within the flood zone.
And so it was actually a direction from flood control. They preferred to move that back and preferred the location of where we're presenting today.
It's interesting because maybe I was wrong. I thought the garage location now is lower than the one previously before because when I knew the site was flooded in the early 90s, and when it flooded, the portion that flooded was the ADU and where the proposed garage, and not the higher garage. So that's why I was close about your comment when it flooded way back 30 years ago. I saw that, I remember, that's why I want to point it out that when it flooded that time, it flooded the left corner of the property completely.
That's understandable because that's the historic drainage pattern for this area and specifically
yeah.
that site. Comes off of 192.
Yep.
And this site is considerably lower.
Yep, I'm familiar with the site and I saw that, and that's why during the flood of that time, the garage wasn't flooded of all the storm. So that's just a comment. And then I'm very soon that you can build garage and storage below the floodplain. They allow you to do that.
Yes.
And that might make the house a little better. If you can, I think you only need maybe a foot or 2 feet, and you can put the parking under the building, and that will save a lot of money. The stone is expensive, unless you plan to glue the stone on, then that's a different issue. But so I think if you can come back and addressing those issues, and as Dave said, maybe a landscape plan, so we can take a look at the whole parcel. Thank you.
Rob, comments?
Yes, I agree with the comments. I think you have, and incredibly empathetic to trying to move this along. So, but I do believe, like on the stone, that there's a lot of stone veneer there. You could open that up. Either you do that with landscaping, or you just have openings, and I think there's a creative way that you could show that elevation that would be more effective and open that up and save you a whole bunch of money. So I agree with the comments at this point. So thank you.
Bill, comments?
Yeah, I agree too. I think that, whether the land use, as Tip said, is really a lengthy process. I don't think that's the longest part of the whole process, unfortunately. Building department will be, I think there's ways to kind of finesse that lower floor. And, we certainly do understand the circumstances here and the hardship that these folks have gone through. So we're here to try and help. And at the end of the day, we also want, to provide a good product for the client, as you are concerned about too. In terms of the garage too, the placement of that, I think on the site plan, looks like it's going to be tight to get in and out of that door. So I would have to agree with the other board members in their concept for that location being kind of difficult. So, I mean, if there's a way to do it underneath, great. If not, how to break up that lower level of the main residence, and then also provide enough buffer there between your road and the house to have landscaping and screening. So those are my comments.
Yeah, my only further comment is I think you can dig down a foot in order to get the garage under there. Maybe it's 2 feet at the most, and save an entire building and all that money. And it's more convenient for your client. So, back for a concept, right? Everybody? I think you have a lot of work to do with the planner. Well, get yourself a planner, and so we can get all those issues resolved. Anything else, everybody?
Now that the board has seen at least the main house, would it be possible for us to work with the planner and return to MBAR for a preliminary review. And preliminary, what I'm hearing them saying is preliminary means you need to look at the architecture of the other structure.
Adele, I'm happy to do that, but that doesn't mean you're going to get a preliminary approval.
Understood. Preliminary to us means a lot of different things, as you know.
Okay, but you're have the opportunity to get an approval, but you still have to get it all done right.
Preliminary review.
Is everybody okay with?
I think it'd be better to come back sooner and get more input from the board than to spend a lot of time on the level that's necessary for preliminary approval, only to find that there's issues. So
Yeah, that's what I
if
would
I were you, I'd
mention
come
that.
back for more input as soon as you have a concept plan.
conceptual.
Yeah, and it's not going to slow you down, and then you're not risking, because the bar for preliminary is pretty high. You'll have to do a lot of work. Yeah,
You
better
know,
to get input.
I want to tell you something. My comrades here, not compadres, but comrades, love to dump projects on Rob and I for both preliminary and final. So if you get it to the point in concept that's really done well,
Mhm.
you may just get on the consent calendar. But you got to get it
Gotta get
all,
it there.
make sense of it, make sense of it as a project, okay? It's not there yet. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Oh, one last thing. I hate to bring this up, guys. It's almost a two-story house. Do we want to story pole it? I don't think so. It's buried down in there. But we asked Jeff Shelton's project to do it. What do you think? Hate to do it.
It doesn't seem like there's any opportunity not to do that. It's a flood control requirement.
You okay?
I mean, it's the site, these,
They have to do what they have to do, right? We can't lower their height
Right.
other than the pitch of the roof.
Yeah.
So our hands are kind of tied, as I think you're saying, Dave.
It's a modest single-story structure.
They're being
there's
forced to,
nowhere for them to go. They're in the
Yeah.
middle of the property.
Okay.
I don't think we need to.
Okay, I don't either.
if we saw it, we wouldn't be able to do anything
I
about it.
wanted to get that clarified though. No story polls. Item number 4, 625 Para Grande Lane. Kamala, are you here or somebody else, please? I'm trying to figure out. The microphone, yes, thank you.
Hi, I'm Lucia Bartholomew. I presented this at Concept back in November. We've made some revisions that are summarized here. I'll talk through them quickly and then we'll go through the plans. We'll try to keep things brief. So one of the biggest comments from the board was the amount of hardscape. We reduced that by about 3,300 square feet. We worked with fire to eliminate a driveway that was previously going down to the ADU. And we also eliminated a lot of the hardscape in the southern portion of the site. We also, in order to help with the privacy for the neighbor, if you want to keep going to the site plan, that might, yeah.
There was a comparison of the two, just.
Yeah, that's actually existing versus new, so keep
Okay.
going. Past the photos,
Next,
page 9.
next one,
Here, yes.
right there.
So existing versus new. So we are actually only adding about 1,400 square feet of impervious area at this point, even though the house is larger, because we're able to eliminate so much of the hardscape in the southern portion of the site and that driveway along the western border, which we actually think is a great improvement for the overall site design. And again, we work with fire. We already have their approval on eliminating that driveway because the hose length still works from the driveway as shown now. So that was the biggest change in response to the board comments. The other thing that we did was we moved the entire structure 5 feet to the west, which was the most we could do before hitting the floodplain restriction. And we talked about wanting to have windows that faced east, but also addressing our neighbor's concern about having windows facing her property. So in moving the structure 5 feet to the west, we carved out a courtyard, as you can see in the site plan. We do have a window in that wall, but the only windows that are facing the east are blocked by an 8 feet site wall, which is within our setback. So it's not restricted like a typical site wall would be because it's within the setback. So those were the biggest changes to the to the plan. We did also add a turnaround for the fire department at the north of the property, which that is enough to satisfy what they need for their hammerhead. And they've approved that as well. I will note that the turnaround that is kind of like the motor court south of the darker gray, which is the driveway to our neighbor's property, the easement there, that is not required by fire. They really like it, and they say for any potential fires on site, they would much prefer to be able to turn around, but it's not a direct requirement. So those are the main changes. If we could just go to the renderings, we did bring materials. I don't know if you'd like to see them at this stage, but we have all the existing or the proposed materials with us. Would you like to see those now, or is that more for preliminary?
Sure,
Okay.
make your you have to press the button to not you.
She will, yeah.
Okay.
She's gonna grab them from the back. These views have not changed very much because we really did just shift the building those 5 feet to the west, but the architecture hasn't really changed very much, and I think was well received last time. We just have the detail now of materiality.
Yeah, just put it there. Members of the board, you want to stand up and kind of look over the side here. I think we have a pretty good idea what's.
Yeah.
pretty well depicted.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of point them out. So we can see this kind of free-form stone is representing the stone we're thinking for the site walls. And you can see kind of lining the pool area, those kind of lower 30-inch walls. And then it's, you know what, I have to confirm with vendor because I just looked at the spec and it doesn't say the exact type of stone, but it is enough.
Into the mic, please.
Sorry, I will continue in the mic. And then for the deck material on the floor, the entry and around the pool, we have these pavers. These are limestone pavers. And then for the siding of the house, we're doing a T&G wood siding. This is oak. Let's see here. And then this is just representing the windows and doors. We're going to do steel and glass. So this is just representing that. We're thinking a bronze color there. And then, sorry, finally, the standing seam roof. So we have this matte medium bronze color, and I have the reflectivity ratings if you would like to see that.
Okay, is that it?
Yes.
That?
One thing that came up, and I don't know if this is the revised set of plans, it was requested that we show human scale figures on the elevations.
Yeah, so let's go down and do that.
Okay.
So I actually made that request yesterday, so I don't know, up or down?
Backwards, page 17 and 18. This is the revised set, yes. So you can see those figures. We also added the line that shows the allowable height. It's actually probably easier to see on the next sheet. So you can see the line of the existing grade and then the offset of 25 feet to the allowable maximum height. It only gets close at that one pinch point based on how the slope works, but we are within that 25 feet max, and you can see the human scale figures there.
And thank you for doing that. I know that was extra work on your part.
Oh, no problem. And I just wanted to mention also, we do have our civil engineer here. We are planning to stick with sewer. That was something that came up last time. If we were to try to do septic for both the main house and the ADU, we don't have the area for it really on the site without taking up every square inch of free space. So we've worked with him really closely. He's worked with the sanitation department and is here to answer any questions on the safety and how it's engineered underneath the culvert to connect at Para Grande.
That it?
Yes.
Questions, Bill?
Could you go to the site plan there, Dave? So that is an easement through the property that services what, just one home then?
The dark gray, yeah. So everything from kind of that dark gray band up is an easement for our neighbor. We've met with him many times. He's going to write a letter of support at some point. He's very happy with the project.
Just servicing one home.
It's
then,
just one
beyond
home.
that.
So
Okay.
yes, that's a great point because I know that the board doesn't love two entries, but this is
Right.
really all on our property. The only entry to the property is the very top right.
Right. And the pathways that you have there in the middle of that roundabout, is that just a DG material or something like
That's,
that?
it's permeable. It's
Okay.
gravel. Thanks, Katie.
Okay. And you've
Our
got,
landscape Architect is here as well if there's questions on landscape.
Got it. And that's all I have.
Rob, questions, please.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a sense of scale here. So what is the distance from the two driveway, two entries? What is that distance, please? Yeah, but just a rough.
It's hard to see. Let me see if I can just
Is there a
approximate
graphic scale somewhere or something?
45 feet, I would say, because the distance to the side yard is about 15. Yeah, it's at 45 or 50 feet between them.
Between the two driveways
Yeah.
is 50 feet? Okay. And is there any reason why the driveway is touching the that corner of the house right there, the corner of that garage?
Oh, that's the entry to the garage there. From the west, you turn.
No, I'm looking where the entry to the
Oh, that
to the entry.
corner?
Yeah.
It's deceptive. I think the roof overhang is shown. It's not actually going to touch the structure.
Okay, thanks. And just what, so what is the path, what is the intent of the pathway? Is that the intent to kind of be the front door or the front door walkway from the street? Is that
If you were going to walk down the alley, walk down Par Grande, that would be just a pedestrian way of getting off the property as opposed to having to walk up your driveway, but it's just gravel. I mean, those two palm trees are there, and we talked about that last time too. Actually, one other change we made was removing one of the palm trees to kind of keep more in line with the existing landscape, the oak grove feeling on the site. So we did remove one of them, but those two actually provide a really beautiful entry. So that pathway kind of goes between these two very spectacular, large existing palm trees.
So I'm trying to understand. So was the original driveway and entry to this on the right-hand side? Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm looking. It's on the
Yeah.
left-hand side.
Mm-hmm.
Did you look at coming off the right and eliminating the driveway on the left? Was there any reason for wanting to keep that?
Well,
I mean, I know it's a shorter path to the garage.
yeah, it's a shorter pass to the garage. I mean, I think it's just functionally easy to kind of
Sure.
make that loop. It's such a small amount we would be saving in terms of permeable area if we took that little leg off, that it seems worthwhile. You know, it's the extra cost of another gate, but it feels like a nicer sequence for pulling in and out.
Okay, all right.
And
Thank you.
again, the fire department really likes having
Oh,
it,
okay.
so.
Yeah, I bet. Okay, thank you.
Tip, questions, please.
No questions.
Dave, questions, please.
No questions.
Can we go to the elevations, please?
Keep going, those are demo. It's page 18.
Next one. Yeah, that one right there. Upper one. When I was looking at these yesterday, I imagined little man, is what I call him, down on the ground. And that sucker is almost 2 stories or is 2 stories in height.
At the lower,
Yeah.
on the lower level.
And therefore, I'm thinking that this building is very tall.
Mm.
And in fact, has a mass, bulk, and scale much larger than one might think by just looking at the FAR.
Mm-hmm.
What are your comments about that, please?
Well, I can say that, you know, if you put that little man down below, it's certainly not quite 2 stories. You're still at about 18 feet, I believe, from grade. So it's lower than 2 stories, which would be permissible. I think the reason we do this is to keep it a 1-story residence for the entire, you know, so that everything is on one level, as opposed to having the whole house terrace way down at that point. It's only really at the end of the house where I think it's, you know, even approaches the height limit. We're obviously way lower at the front, but experientially it allows us to have a pool that's accessible from the kitchen and without having to go way down. So we're trying to just keep things as one level as we can for the experience of the homeowner. But again, I think we're well within our limits here, and we could certainly provide additional views if that was helpful. You know, we've been showing it from the interior, but we could certainly provide another view from this corner.
That's all the questions I have. So, public comment, is there anybody that would like to address the board on item number 4, 625 Para Grande Lane, please? Oh, I'm sorry. Susan? You are too close to lot lines, very intrusive. Did you have anything else to say? Yeah, one second. Why are her lights blinking? Okay, very good. Thank you. Go ahead now, Susan. 3 minutes.
So I do find it incredibly intrusive. I think that putting a courtyard right next to my bedroom is disingenuous at best in terms of taking the intrusive factor off.
Can you speak more directly into the mic?
I
Thank you.
think that putting a courtyard, an exterior courtyard right next to my bedroom, if we want to go back to the existing elevations, I think that would be a good one. They've bought an acre parcel. It's a spec home. They're scraping the lot and I'm not quite sure, and starting from scratch. So I'm not quite sure why, having bought an acre lot, scraped the lot and starting from scratch, you have to be right next to me and so intrusive. If you're starting from scratch, do something that stays in character with Montecito. You know, I know you're not from here. I know you're not local, but we really kind of take our privacy to heart. There's a reason we all get in front of the M-Bar, and it's because they're here to make sure that the character of Montecito is maintained. And I really don't feel that this is in character in any way. It's certainly not a neighborly project.
Can I respond?
Please.
Are you done, ma'am?
I'm waiting to see what she responds. I mean, I was promised that there would be communication. There was no communication.
Well, I
didn't.
did send the plans in advance.
You sent the plans after I requested them. You did not keep me informed. You did not arrange meetings with me. You were not neighborly.
Please address your comments to the board.
Yes, she did not send me plans. She was not neighborly.
So I would like to address what our other options would be. And this is something we've talked about. And I really do think that everything I'm about to say is completely genuine. If we move the house to the southern part of the site, which is really the only other option if we're building a house roughly of this scale, we're creating a large open space there. Now, I know your concern is someone could buy this and do whatever they want. They could put a swimming pool there. They could put a pickleball court there. We're trying to make a very solid edge for you on that side of the property by building an 8-foot wall. Can we go to the last page where there's the rendering facing?
I would be so much happier with it down at the south end of the lot.
Okay, so
It's also not the place to site a home on this lot. It's dark. The lot was purchased because it's got beautiful light from the south. So, oh, sorry.
Lucia,
Yes?
we're not supposed to be engaged in comments here. So
Okay, so basically my big ones are, I do not think that this sewer is going to be run appropriately. I do not believe you potentially have the easement. You think you do. I do not believe that the masonry bridge from 1900 was, is going to potentially take the cut and fill, but that's something that I can work out with the building department also. Here in front of the M-Bar, my only concern is siting and scale. And I think the siting is inappropriate and I think the scale is inappropriate. This is not a home for a family that exists. It's a spec project that I'm going to have to live with. And I really hope that you will help me to make sure that this is something that stays in character for Montecito. I would propose a site visit. I think there are other ways to approach this project that, given the fact that it is a from scratch project, and to rethink the way it's being done to make it make more sense. I mean, honestly, it looks out.
Susan, your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Site visit, please.
Thank you.
Where's her house?
Where are you? East, west, right, left?
I am right to the.
To the right. You're on the east. To the east. Okay. Anyone else would like to address the board on public comment, please, on item number 4625 Para Grande Lane?
No additional requests.
Okay, thank you. Comments? Bill?
Well, in light of some of this information, is there?
Can you get closer to the mic?
Yeah. I think along your lines, John, a little bit, maybe I'm getting a little more concerned about the height as close as it is to that property line over there. But is there a better rendering? I hate to go back to questions, but is there a better rendering that might show that?
There's a
side
rendering
elevation
from
there?
her side of the property. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go forward one. Yeah, this is just to show the level of coverage that we have so that there's no window. And I knew that a concern was having windows facing her property. So you can't see any because we've built this wall that again is 8 feet, which is higher than would be allowable on the property line, but it's within the setback.
Is that the number 2 there that I see? Is that the wall beyond?
Yes,
And then it looks like it transitions to a wood fence. Is that what that is?
No, that's the house beyond.
So the wall that is in front of us, the stone wall, then there's a fence to the right of that. Is that correct?
There's no wood fence. The wood
That's-
is the house. So we're seeing the stone wall and then the wood is the house beyond.
But you're gonna have some kind of fence there though, of some sort, separating the property, I suppose.
The property line has an existing fence. So this is kind of, this
Without
is set
that.
back as if you were looking like directly through the property line because that wall is over 10 feet from the property line and the house is 15 at the closest. And just to address the height comment, the only portion where it gets, to that higher 18 plus amount is on the other side of the property. There's a longer wing on that side. We kept this much shorter on her side of the property because of the concerns we knew she had. So it's nowhere near 18 feet when you're as close to the property line as would affect her.
So that
Okay, members of the board, we are actually making comments. We're not in an
asking questions.
interactive
All right.
chat session here, please.
Well, so my comments are, I have no problem with the architecture. Go back to the elevations there real quick, Dave, if you would. Yeah, the materials look great. Finishes are fine. Landscaping, I don't know if I'll let Rob and some of the others comment on the landscape on that side. Maybe that's what needs to be addressed is a better buffer of landscape on that elevation. That might be helpful. Generally, I think I'm okay with the architectural style. On this west elevation, it looks a little tall. I don't know if there's any way to reduce the height of that. You're at what plate height there? Is that 10 or 12 feet there on that side?
11.
11 foot, which is a living area. So yeah, I think those are my comments.
Rob, comments, please.
I'm still digesting and processing and trying to take into account what the neighbor has said. Just one quick question specifically is I saw the comment, Katie, on the lawn in the back. Is there furnish? Is that like a, you have chase lounges by the pool? What is that sitting in?
Correct. Yeah, it would be a native grass. The idea was to make it feel more green in every space that we're designing.
Will the chase lounges kind of function on that surface?
Yeah,
Is that a walking surface? what
we're
you're
still
proposing?
studying like where the furniture will go, but the idea is to have grass up too.
Okay.
Cool.
I like synthetic turf, but not everybody does. So
Yeah.
sometimes that's where it has its place, and there's a lot of good varieties on that.
Right.
So my comment on the driveway, I guess, is seems like there's some things that could be. And first of all, I like your presentation on the landscape and the imagery. I think is done very well, and there's a lot of great imagery in there. So the pieces of this project I really like. So in terms of whether all the pieces and everything is kind of pulled together properly, I'm still kind of trying to process that. But I do, like when you said the two driveways, the entries are only 45 feet apart, that I kind of go back to wondering whether that driveway could be reduced, rather than have, and I know the fire department likes it by having one entry and having it kind of S in, so it kind of meets, it presents the house and then allows you, and then the garage are hidden around back. I just wonder whether a few things can be pulled in, along the edges to kind of help address some of the neighbors' concerns. But I think you have a lot of the right pieces, so I think you're in the right direction. So I just, would like to see what the other members have to say in some of the other aspects.
Can you go back to the site plan, please? Yeah, so I believe that that driveway, if you continue to the left, it go into the big estate, right? The Alpharaitis.
It is, yes.
Yeah, Alpharaitis.
And I've walked it with him on back and forth.
And that is the back entrance to that estate,
Yes.
not the main.
It's not the main
entrance.
entrance, it's the
Right.
back entrance.
So, my take is that this is truly an interior lot. It's right in the middle of what we call Montecito. It's comply to all the setbacks as I see it, and you're keeping the guest house on the lower left.
Yes, we're actually making that more compliant. It had an illegal addition and we're converting it to an ADU. We're demolishing all the other unpermitted structures and we already have a building permit application in to convert the guest house to a proper ADU.
So that's the only one that you're keeping.
Yes.
And the house is 1 story. It's I think it's nice. It's quiet. The applicant could have applied to a 2-story house and they're still within their right to do that. So so I think that it's acceptable and it's quiet enough, and the FAR is pretty much in line. You know what the FAR?
The area is 4332 and it's an acre lot. What's the percentage? The cover, but I think we're kind of right at the allowable FAR.
You have it. Can we see it? Can you zoom into the left? Okay, yeah, so 108, I think it's then that's calculated for the ADU, so I think that's acceptable. So yeah, I can support the project. Thank you.
Hey, please, comment.
First of all, I want to commend you for responding to our comments from the last round. You reached out to the fire department, you've reduced the hardscape significantly. You have a civil engineer on board. I think, as your neighbor mentioned, that's more of a building department issue than ours, but obviously you need to have that covered as you move forward. I like the design of the house. I think the location and the setbacks are acceptable, and I think your solution for providing privacy to the neighbor by stepping back and having that wall 10 feet in so you can really make it substantial and to prevent noise. I think those are good solutions that we regularly approve here at the board. So I think my only concern is the overall height of the building. I understand that has to do with the slope of the site, keeping it on 1 level, but you are meeting the height requirements. And I think it is a nice architectural design. So for those reasons, I can support the project.
I am not as warm to this project as my fellow board members. Number one, I think that one of the reasons that the property is brought as close to the east as it is, even though you've brought it off that property line, is that because you have the garage doors facing west as opposed to facing north. And if they face north, you could take that entire realm of that entire portion of the building, 2/3 of the building, and bring it to the west. You have a tree, you have a lower wing coming down, and there's a tree there. You could pull that whole thing into that space and pull it that much farther off the property line.
Just one quick, it's the floodplain. We would be happy to push it further and turn the entry to the north, but the floodplain line comes right, you can see there's a dash line. We're as close to the floodplain as we can be.
We have
They don't work well on the screen anyhow,
Okay.
so.
Do you understand where I'm going, Bill?
Yes.
The flood with a big flood. I like of that property.
Okay, that's number one. And number two, I I was the one that reviewed the drawings yesterday, and I'm the one that asked for Mr. Mann. I think the building's awfully tall. I don't think that it needs to be that tall. I think that it can come down, particularly you have an open ceiling. So what you're doing is you're saying, I want tall walls and then I want an open ceiling. Bringing those walls down, leaving the roof pitch where it is, or maybe bringing it down, I think would make a substantial difference in terms of the visual impact to neighbors to the east and the west. And I, for one, would very much like that to happen. I don't know if other members of the board would like that. And I think that I am always amazed at how much I learn on a site visit. I personally would like to get this story pulled if you want to leave it at that height, or if you want to bring it down and then have us do a story pole. And I don't know, I may be the only one on the board that wants that, but those are the two primary. Ma'am, you didn't give your name, the materials.
It's Danielle.
Say it's a matte finish on that roof.
Yeah.
We had, I don't know, it's probably 6 to 8 months ago, it may even be a year ago. We had somebody come before our board and show what standing seam metal roofs can do to the neighbor, and it's not pretty. So I would ask you to find something that's even as matte, as non-reflective as possible. I know you represented it, that's good. I'm just not, when I saw it, it looked like there was a lot of reflectivity coming.
Okay.
So, members of the board, am I a sole person for story polls? Or what about other people? I think it'll get us to understand what the neighbor's driving at too.
Well, well, that's just my opinion, but I know the site and, well, one-story house, raised a little bit in the back. It looks like about 5 feet if you look at the person standing. Personally, I don't think it's around for story poles, because, Fish is zoning for 35 feet, if I'm correct. The two-story and Fish house is about 18.
Bill?
Dave, could you go up one elevation to the front? I mean, maybe it's, well, that would be difficult. I was thinking maybe it's the porch covers that are the tall elements. If those could become flat or propped, that might help that massing. If you go down one more to the next. It's those long overhangs on the porches that sort of throw me off. And if it was at a lower elevation, maybe there was a way to divide that clear story, upper clear story, divide with a flat roof cover or something. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. That might help. And
Site visit or no?
I don't know if I need a site visit. I think.
Dave? No? Bill? Rob?
The fact that it's one story, I'm okay with it. But if they were to pull down the back, as you're suggesting, I think that would be
Well,
far easier to support.
so can we go to the floor plan?
Because I see what you're saying about it as you carry that through.
So we have a bedroom wing on the east side, right? So that certainly doesn't need to be as tall as the primary space.
It's not. If you look at the elevation that shows the cross section, it is lower,
Somewhat lower.
several feet.
So in my personal opinion, it would help a lot to bring that down to maybe 9. And then you have open ceilings in there as well. And then, that's the living space and the kitchen space over on the west. That's parallax. That's a long way away at that point. So that would be my comment as well. I don't know if members of the board, it sounds like we're not going to have a site visit. I'm a single person. So I may be the chairman, but I'm only one vote.
And I'm okay with not having a site visit if they pull some of that down in the back, then otherwise I would.
Well, I was thinking about the entire east side. That wing, there's a ridge running right down through the 2 bedrooms, 1 bedroom or whatever.
You think it's the east side, John, but the west side's taller and sticks out.
Yeah, but
further out.
nobody's over there.
Yeah.
That's some huge property. And Susan lives to the east.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean,
anyway, that's my comment. Do we want to chime in on that, or shall we let them try to figure it out, please?
I believe, okay, this is the second time we've seen the project. And so Mike, I mean, maybe further comment, if you can take a look at, find a way to reduce the height on the east a little bit, to work with the neighbor, I think there'll be good neighbors. But other than that, I think the project is probably ready to move to a preliminary approval.
Yeah, okay. Everybody else okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we do not have a motion at this point because it's on for concepts. Yes, it's on for concept, back for preliminary, full board, right? So, and then
Get final on consent.
And then final on consent, I'm sure. Anything else? I hope that the four women can have a nice little chat right here, as long as you're all in the same room. Item number 5, Chip is out. He's got some kind of a conflict. And Brian Banks, you're not here with us, are you? He's gone.
No, he's not. I am here, the designer, to represent the project.
And you are?
And my name is Marcos Rafael Anaya.
Marcos, okay, very good. Marcos, so let me just read the comments we had here before. MBAR expressed concerns regarding site layout, circulation and on-site parking, floor plan layout, location of entry, proximity and architectural compatibility of focused residents, of proposed residents to existing non-conforming residents, usability function of decks on south elevation. One member suggested studying architecture from the mid-century modern style for examples of layouts that maximize efficiency and livability. Marcos, floor is yours. We have 4 members today for you.
Yes, if we could please start with the site plan, site survey plan there. So what we're trying to do is that there's an existing unit there, and that was built in 1932. We plan to keep that, and we plan to connect the proposed project to this existing ADU. If we could go to the page 18, which has the landscape plan and the proposed floor plan layout. If we could zoom in, we could see the proposed residence. In regards to circulation from the entrance from Valley, we create some sort of meandering walkway. Our landscape person worked pretty well to try to put some landscaping. Also, we brought back in the fencing from its original, which was abutting the ADU, to further back in to give more landscaping to the front. So this kind of addresses the entry into the proposed residence. The proposed residence also, we've had to modify the ADU to where we are connecting the ADU to the residence so that we can get an FAR of 103. We were also adding a swimming pool, a sunken fire pit, and also an area for relaxation, which is more towards the west side of the pool area. If we could go to the rendering, not the renderings, but rather the conceptual, the design mood board that we would have. You could, the mood board, which is further up. So I can show the concept. Here we go. The next one, please, up above. So this is where the concept of what we were trying to develop using the vertical siding, long eaves, the smooth stucco. And if you could go to the next level, here we go. So you can see a little bit of the materials for the roof, trying to use the anodized cap, again, the vertical siding, the stucco, the channel for the stucco, and then the entrance, trying to create a focal point for the entryway where we have a high ceiling. And the house has, if you can go to the elevation, the front elevation, The first one, yes. So if you zoom into that, you can see that we have kind of like a brow that elevates the main living quarters or the entry living quarters, and that is at 17 feet, where the sleeping quarters are at 11 feet. So there's a breakdown, and also to emphasize the living area to where it's a little higher. If you go now back to the landscape plan, this is let's go 18, I believe it's 18. Zoom in to the floor plan. So in the floor plan, you can see that the sleeping quarters are kind of abutting the main living quarters, so that they're more towards the back, and they are in use of the pool area, the fire pit, and so forth. So this is more of the area that will be used by my client. Aside from this, we know that the ADU is, we have a historical report, so that has been added to the packet. I'm not sure if you guys received that. Katie, at this point, you can join in. Katie's our landscape architect, and she can give you an idea in regards to what we did with the landscaping.
Hi, everyone. So we have some existing oak trees that we got an arborist report on. And so those are those existing trees we're calling out there. And then we have to do some mitigation oak trees. So those are in the back near the pool area. And overall, we just tried to make the area as green as possible. Some of the visioning, you can see we have hedging at the back of the property where the pool is located, and wherever we can get some more planting along the property line, and we're also fencing the property line. So if you want to just pan down, you can kind of see some of the visioning images. So with those oaks, we're going more native in style and minimalistic with gravel and mass planting. At the pool area, we thought it would be nice to also have a water feature. If you just zoom out and pan out, I mean, we're still early on, but we're just assuming path lighting. I have an image of the path light. And I think the visioning here really tells the story of just, you know, grasses and gravel and pavers, concrete pavers. Happy to answer any questions.
Are you two done then? Question, please? Everybody done? Okay. Questions, Dave, please?
Could you give us a little more detail on the perimeter screening, what it is and the height of it, and how it's going to screen the project from the public view?
Sure, yeah, since it's a more native site, we want to do ramness, so like getting up to 8 feet tall, and then the fencing 6 feet.
And that's around the entire property, or?
So ramness is to the, I guess it's the east, it's Page South. And then we have actually, I think, we haven't officially decided all the hedging because we're still preliminary, but I think we'll probably do something like podocarpus on the north, so right behind the pool, so really to give height there. And the rest of the property would be more ramness and native throughout wherever we can. Wherever there's oak trees, we can't really get any hedging in to be considerate of their root zone. But you can kind of see those larger circles throughout
Can
the.
you zoom into the plan or move it down? So
Yeah, move it down just a little bit. So
scroll down. Other way?
up, yeah. So all along the property, we're looking at some sort of hedging that would get 8 feet wherever we can, and there's not an oak.
Have you reviewed the driveway with the zoning and the distance from the street, and is that?
I do not know the answer to that. We're still
Yes, we have.
navigating.
We've also spoken to the fire department, and hence the current width of the easement driveway is 12 feet, and the request was to make it 14 feet. You can see the dimension here on the site plan.
Thanks.
Bill, questions, please?
What's that? Do you have an illustration or a rendering or something of the connection there between the ADU and the residence?
Only for the existing, the ADU being that it's a separate permit has been left out, but you can go to the site sections I have some site sections up above that depict the connection. These are site walls. So yeah, I think there's one more section, go up one more. There's some cross sections there. So if you go to the upper site section, you zoom in a little bit, you can see
Oh, I
that
see, there it is, yeah.
there's the existing unit, and currently there's a laundry that's existing, and we're going to be taking that for the proposed new project, but it's already existing, and that's how they'd be entering into the kitchen, would be through that, I call it kind of like breezeway / laundry area.
Is your large glass window that's in the living room looking right into the corner of the ADU there? Is that correct? Am I understanding?
From the
that
living room,
correctly?
yes.
Yeah. You're
It will
looking
be
right at the wall of the ADU.
But hence, that's where we'd be doing some sort of vegetation to obviously buffer that.
And how would you describe how you're connecting architecturally the existing structure to this new home?
The existing structure has both vertical and horizontal elements. And I've done that with this project. In fact, with this elevation, you can kind of see where, even though we're using the wood siding, depending on the width and so forth, that we would try to kind of manipulate it to match what's there. For example, there's corrugated on the existing, and also there's horizontal siding. So I'm hoping to kind of marry the two together to be able to come up with something that ties it in.
Would you go to that elevation that shows the front of the house with the ADU in it? Yeah, okay.
This one. If
So
you don't,
it's
if you
currently
go
that-
to the site walls, it shows the fencing with the existing
You
elevation.
had it already.
Yeah,
Keep going now.
it's the site walls, the next one, I believe. One more.
No, there
No.
was an
Oh.
illustration that had the ADU on it. Keep going down.
Yeah, if you keep going up, you'll see it's under site walls.
What's
Go
the
up one
PDF
more.
page number?
If you keep going one more, I believe, past the site plan, past,
No,
it's,
well,
no.
I wanted to see the elevation.
That's what I'm asking for, the page number. Do you have it?
Yeah, let me see if I can get it.
Yeah.
My
That's all right. That's all right. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Rob, please.
Let's see. So, one question on the one oak to the upper left on the landscape plan is, it looks like it's real close to that site wall. Is there an issue with that by any chance?
If you look at the report, Katie, you might want to chime in on this one. There is a branch that will need to be cut off. But that's where we're doing a mitigation with another oak. Am I correct,
No.
Katie?
Correct. Can you point out again which tree you're talking about?
The one on the upper left. On
Upper left.
plan, yeah, the little, it's kind of the little one.
Towards the street.
Yeah, in the corner of the private driveway and then East Valley.
Mm-hmm.
One right there. Is there a footing going along there, or is that basically being spanned?
I think we would definitely try and span it, and we're adding in some new boulders there to kind of retain and clean up that area as well.
Okay, and then let's see, I had one other question. Oh, I know what it was. So, is the as far as the driveway going into the garages, are those areas? I think Dave alluded to that too. I mean, are you excluded from parking in there? Doesn't look like there's enough room to park there. So is there like some condition you have to park in the garage or something in there? Is there
Sorry,
enough
repeat,
room
what location are you talking about?
So I'm talking about on the private driveway, there's the driveway that goes into the garage.
Correct.
And then is there some interest in trying to park there when you get out of your car, or is it just, or is there some requirement you always have to park in the garage? It doesn't look like it's wide, long enough or something to, there's enough length in there to get a car. in there, so.
Inside the garage
Oh,
or
no, on the driveway itself.
there was no interest in trying to park in that area, I guess. We can't encroach. In fact, the vehicle that's next to it, I got to push it in more because we have to stay away from the setbacks in regards to parking.
Yeah, I guess that was really my question, was the
Yes,
parking
yeah, there's a setback
requirement,
requirement.
was that all resolved in terms of, because it looks like you have to park in the garage in order for that to work?
Correct. So therefore, you have to park in the garage. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
David, there's a plan that shows the project in context with its neighbors. I don't remember which, up or down,
There's
like a Google
keep
Earth or
going.
something.
Yes, it's a
Yeah.
go. There we go. That's the context map.
If
Here
I
you can
were-
see, go ahead, I'm sorry.
If I were going to say that this project is far more crowded on the site than any other project in the area, now perhaps not the project directly to the east, but everybody else, and therefore the assessment of neighborhood compatibility could not be made except on a numerical basis. What would your comment about that would be, please?
We've
It's
tried
too
to
crowded.
minimize the square footage, and my client, obviously, there's so much you can whittle it down to. So with what we have in regards to the site, this is, the best that we can come up with at this point. As you can see, we placed a lot of vegetation to try to bring this particular square footage into the lot. While it may seem to be big, you can see right below there's a cluster of smaller units. And also, for example, some garages that have been converted into ADUs and so forth. So in that regard, just like looking down below, you can see that the cluster kind of has the same footprint as what we have. While the other two across Valley, as you said, that one's large, but also our rear neighbor, which you can see the pool, but right at the bottom part where it says neighborhood properties, that's a large scale residence. So it's a mixture. So therefore, we're kind of like in the middle of the two, meaning the sprawling of units to the other two larger ones. So I think that we are okay based on that.
Public comment, is there anybody that would like to address the board on item number 5, 1278 East Valley Road, please?
No request to speak.
Okay, comments. We are on today for further concepts. Dave?
Well, the plan to me has a lot of awkward things going on, and to my mind, you're not taking best advantage of the site and the solar orientations and a lot of things. That all being said, this is up to you and your client. I think because it's single story and because you've stepped it down at the perimeter, and that you're meeting the setbacks, and the FAR is within the range. And because the project is, from my understanding of the description of the screening, is going to be screened, I can probably support the project. I am really concerned about the driveway entrance. It doesn't seem safe to have the hedge and try to back out of there in that short distance and onto that private driveway. I think you really need to study that. But overall, I think the saving grace in this project for me is the height of it, the scale of it, and the fact that you are going to screen it from the neighbors. Those are my comments.
Bill, comments, please.
Yeah, it is definitely a cramped site. If you go back to the site plan there, Dave, there's a lot of stuff going on there. the landscape, site plan.
18.
Yeah, I know we can't comment on the ADU, but the fact that your living room view is looking right up against the wall seems a little unfortunate. I think, Katie, you've done a great job landscaping, screening, and I think that'll be the salvation of this project. Certainly as much greening as we can get on it. The fact that it is a single story, would it have been better as a two-story in some portions? Maybe a master upstairs would have given you a little more ground level floor. But then we're seeing more of it. So I guess I can appreciate the single story. I don't think that the things you're asking for in a pool and a spa necessarily are over the top. Those are all things that I think I would definitely look at the sound that's coming off your equipment there. It's a little close to the property line, and you might reconsider its location. And really the most important thing for me was that I don't feel like the existing structure is tying in with the new in any way. I'm not really seeing the materials to coincide. So maybe there's a way to kind of blend the materials a little better. Because the house as a standalone looks fine. And the garage, because that's all we're talking about, is its own little element there, but you are connecting them. And so I think I would still be asking, as we did before, to try and get them so that they're a little more compatible in some fashion. I don't know how you'll do that. Maybe it's materials and finishes and colors or whatnot, but I think those are my comments.
Rob, please.
I agree with a lot of the comments that have been made. I think the hardscape landscape plan does a great job in kind of telling the story. And I think it's the thing that for me really kind of helps present this project and kind of saves it for me, is that you've done a really good job, Katie, in kind of putting this together and with your landscape and the hardscape kind of telling the story that makes it feel like you could live there. So yeah, some of the parking issues kind of trouble me. About the only thing I guess comment hardscape wise is maybe I would celebrate the front entry off the main street, make that a little bit more, it's a little understated, maybe punch that up a little bit, but I think you've done a really nice job, so I support the project.
Different properties have different availabilities, if I can put it that way. If you take a very large property, it makes sense to have an individual bathroom for every property, for every bedroom. It makes sense to have very large garage. But on a constrained site, this is a 0.2 acre site. And actually, as it turns out, I live next door to a constrained site. I think it's about 0.2. And it also has an ADU, but much smaller than this one. And the difficulties of that property is just, it really has a hard time functioning within the context of Montecito, at least in my opinion. So certainly we have a powder room. We have 2 bathrooms for the children or for the secondary bedroom. We have a very large garage. I think that there are ways to cut down the square footages of this thing and get more air around this project. It seems to me, from my personal point of view, that having a kitchen and dining room, and it looks like an excuse for a living room. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. It
It's a
doesn't
wine
look-
area. He has wine, so that's his wines.
Wine area. I don't see a large, comfortable seating area. It seems like the floor plan to me is not working with the rest of the property. There's some kind of outdoor space that a hallways looking on, several hallways are looking on. And so the job here is to make sense for the community, but I think it's also to make sense within the property. And for me, this hasn't gotten there yet. So if it comes back with something like this or something similar to this, I will probably be voting no for it. So, okay, members, where do we want to go next? There are 4 of us today, and we are on for concept. Do the other members feel this is ready for preliminary, please?
Yes.
Yes?
The one point you just made that strikes me is that courtyard in the back. Seems like it could be gone to living space on the inside of the house and make much more volume space on the inside of the house. So I think it's worth maybe just seeing another iteration and refining it just a little bit, but it's almost there, so.
Bill?
Yeah, I think a little more study, if they come back with a little more study on the materials of the combined buildings, I would feel better. So, I mean, I could give it preliminary or come back on preliminary if we could see that, not again guaranteeing that they could get it.
Let's put it on for preliminary. Okay, very good. Thank you all. Item number 6.
I'm sorry, Mr. Can we take a short break? I had a special request from the applicant for this next one, and we just require a couple minutes to coordinate.
Absolutely.